Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call to order the Sierra Vista City Council meeting for December 14th, 2017. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Rick Mueller.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alicia Ash.
Present.
Councilmember Bob Blanchard.
Here.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun.
Present.
Councilmember Rachel Gray. Councilmember Craig Mount.
Present.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. We'll start tonight's meeting with invocation led by Mrs. Calhoun and a Pledge of Allegiance led by me. Will you please rise?
A prayer for city government. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment is decreed. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude our mayor, our city council and staff, and all government leaders. May we always seek the ways of righteousness, justice, and mercy. Grant that we may be enabled by your powerful protection to lead our city with honesty and integrity. Amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Calhoun. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record show that Ms. Gray has now joined us. We'll move on to item number 1, acceptance of the agenda. Mr. Blanchard.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the agenda for the regular city council meeting of December 14th, 2017 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Additions, deletions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to awards and presentations. We have a number of outgoing commissioners being recognized tonight, as well as the folks from the Empty Bowls. So I guess I'll get started here.
So is this the new one? Okay.
We have a number of commissioners that are terming out on their commissions tonight, and we'd like to recognize them. And what I'd like to do is call all the folks up at once, if that's okay. We'll get everybody up here. We'll hand out the certificates, and I'll read one of them in one of the letters. So, Nikki Heydrich, Elizabeth Horning, Carol Childs, all from the Arts and Humanities Commission. From the Commission on Disability Issues, Thomas Reardon. Commission on Cultural Diversity, Christy Lasser-Jones. And Lori Owen. From the Environmental Affairs Commission, Tate Wilcox. Library Commission, Virginia Fuller. Parks and Rec, Ryan Hightower. Planning and Zoning Commission, David Grisham, John Barton, and Kevin Jorgensen. From the Tourism Commission, Bob Gent, Vivek Patel, and Nomerjean Marilyn. Nomerjean's not here. West End Commission, Eric Peterson, Julia McCaw, and from the Youth Commission, Anton Lieb. Okay, so give me a minute to sort through these so we get everybody their certificates, and then I'll read one.
That's that. Pass that down.
Christine.
Who needs you? The mayor's got one.
What is this, just the
It's just
amendment?
the amended.
What
Whoops.
did we amend?
Oh, this is the
got-
track changes printed off on this. It's just a printout.
It's the same thing we had. Okay.
Yeah, because all the numbers.
It's the same, no changes from Tuesday. No changes from Tuesday. Okay. Where's our fan? Where's our fan club today?
Yours?
Makes me sad.
Pick any one of these you want. Okay. Kevin. Please, thank you.
It is charged. Would you want me to try? I mean, I don't think I can do anything different.
Maybe we owe you one. Virginia? Doesn't have a star on it, but we can work on that later. That's okay. Well, I'd like to all to thank you on behalf of the city for your many years of service in those particular areas of interest. You made a significant contribution, and I'm just going to read one of the certificates and one of the letters. And one of the award is a certificate of appreciation is awarded to each one of you for your contribution on your commissions for the time period designated, and it's awarded this day of 7th September, 7th December 2017, signed by the mayor. And it reads, Dear Commissioner, on behalf of the city of Sierra Vista, please accept our sincere thank you for all your efforts during your tenure on your commission. We sincerely appreciate you volunteering your time, energy, and energies for the betterment of the city and its citizens. Your efforts have helped to make Sierra Vista the special place that it is. Because of caring people like you, the city will continue to grow, prosper, diversify, and become a city that we envision for generations to come. A city that will be, a city that will offer a stable economy and a clean and beautiful, safe environment. Again, thank you for your time and efforts on behalf of the city of Sierra Vista. It is certainly appreciated. Warmest regards, signed Frederick W. Mueller, Mayor. And with that, we need to get a picture. So if everybody would scooch up. Scooch.
Scooch, scooch, scooch.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
You look good. Everybody ready? Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Okay, next we have the good folks from the Empty Bowls Project are here tonight. So if you'd come up, and I'll turn the mic over to you for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Are you ready? Okay. Is it on? Can you hear me? All right, good. Good evening, Mayor Mueller and members of the City Council, Mr. Patusek, city staff, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Pottery Studio at Sierra Vista and the Department of Leisure and Library Services, it is my pleasure to bring you a brief report on the results of the 10th Sierra Vista Empty Bowls Project fundraiser for area food banks, which was held on Saturday, November 4th at the Ethel H. Berger Center. Over the years, the Empty Bowls Project has grown by leaps and bounds. This year, approximately 257 people participated in making bowls, including potters from our own program, individuals from the community, civic organizations, local businesses, church groups, middle school students from Colonel Smith Middle School on Fort Huachuca, Bisbee High School, and staff and students from Cochise College's ceramics program. A total of 1,075 bowls were donated this year. 30 area restaurants, bakeries, and service groups donated approximately 101 gallons of soup and a wondrous variety of breads. There were approximately 15 gallons of soup left at the end of the event, and this soup was donated to St. Vincent de Paul. Volunteers served over 400 people a simple lunch of soup and bread at the event. 23 pieces of art and special pottery items were generously donated by amateur and professional potters and artists in Cochise County to the Empty Bowls gallery sale. Rather than holding a silent auction of these items, the gallery buy now and take it with you approach was deemed a success and added $1,114 to the total funds raised. 108 volunteers logged 464 hours just in setting up and executing the event on Friday and Saturday, November 3rd and 4th. The planning committee and 18 other additional volunteers put in over 688 hours on various tasks, from the smallest details to larger, more involved assignments starting in January of 2017. This does not include time dedicated to the actual bowl making. There is not enough time for me to list all the individuals, restaurants, groups, schools, teachers, businesses, and community partners who supported this year's fundraising efforts. Mayor and Council, in front of you was passed out a sheet that lists all of these volunteers and supporters. The Planning Committee extends its heartfelt thanks to all of them and to the Sierra Vista community at large for the wonderful response and generosity shown in support of the Empty Bowls project. While global in scope, the Empty Bowls project is about supporting local food banks and other agencies who are feeding hungry people in our community. It is a fun event, but at its heart, it is a way to bring awareness and action to the issue of hunger and food insecurity. The 2017 Planning Committee received applications from 4 agencies in Sierra Vista and 2 others in Cochise County to become beneficiaries of this year's fundraiser. Here to present the checks to this year's beneficiaries is my fellow committee member, Fran Knowles.
Thank you, and I'm going to go behind you. Yes. Whoops.
You want to introduce Carl?
I want to ask Carl and Sammy to hand out the checks as I call people up. We have many charitable organizations in Cochise County. This year there are 6 food banks, which are the recipients of the funds raised through the 2017 Sierra Vista Empty Bowls project. Together, the food banks serve thousands of meals each month. We'd like to thank all of them and their dedicated volunteers for a job well done in meeting the needs of Cochise County. We are delighted to be able to extend to each of them a check for $2,605.50. I call your name and organization. Please come forward to receive your check and remain up front until everyone here has received a check. Again, thank you and your organizations for all you do. Kathy Calabrese from Good Neighbor Alliance. Pacheco from Peaches Pantry. Stan Garner from St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank. Carolyn Brown from the Salvation Army Sierra Vista Corps. And Sarah Henderson from Bisbee Coalition for the Homeless. Sorry, Sammy. The Benson Area Food Bank will also be receiving a check, but was unable to be here this evening. Thanks to everyone involved in this year's fundraiser.
One more thing. Oops, sorry. The Pottery Studio volunteers wish to thank the city for 10 years of support of Empty Bowls. In the 10 years, 11,303 bowls have been made and $109,807 has been distributed to food banks. It has been a great run. Empty Bowls will not be holding its 11th Empty Bowls project next year. While this may be considered a sad announcement, the volunteers are so thankful for the community support for this project over the last 10 years. We all hope that we have raised the consciousness of everyone around us for the food banks and other agencies in our own community who are feeding hungry people in our own community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. While it's regrettable that the Empty Bowls has decided to shut down their operation, it's really us as the members of the community that should thank you for supporting those that are in need in our community for 10 years. And I don't know what, I didn't get the total amount of money that you raised over 10 years. 109,000. That's amazing for a community our size. And the fact that you started small, and now we're branching out to Bisbee and Benson and other places that have the need also. So on behalf of the community, on behalf of the city and the council, I want to thank the Empty Bowls folks for all their good work, and those folks that are providing food, thank you for your good work too. And please give them a round of applause. We'll get a picture.
Scoots.
All right, now he's ready. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Have you ever seen Sam smile?
We'll now move to the city manager's report.
Give the folks a second here to get seated. Okay. Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. As this is the final regular council meeting of 2017, I just want to remind everybody that city offices will be closed Monday, Christmas Day, the 25th of December, and then Monday, January 1st for New Year's Day. That will mean that your refuse service will move to Tuesday and Wednesday from Monday and Tuesday on those particular weeks. Our next regularly scheduled work session will be on January 11th, 2018, here in the council chambers at 3 o'clock. And then our next regularly scheduled council meeting will be on the 13th, the first was on the 9th, of January, and then on the 11th is the council meeting at 5 o'clock here in the chambers. A couple of projects tonight. The Sierra Vista Pavement Condition Survey was awarded to the firm Infrastructure Management Services, and that is through our Metropolitan Planning Organization. That should begin shortly. And then our Public Works floodplain modeling request for statement of qualifications will be awarded to the firm CMG Drainage, and that should start shortly. The Vista Transit Operational Efficiency Study, also through the MPO, those evaluations are almost complete, and an award is expected early next week, so that should begin soon. Next, I would like to acknowledge the retirement of Jennifer Thornton from our Community Development Department last week. She was very instrumental in administering our Community Development Block Grant Program and worked extensively with the Continuum of Care and other social service agencies in the community. I want to thank her for her 20 years of service to the community, and she will certainly be missed around City Hall. And finally, on behalf of the staff of the City of Sierra Vista, I want to thank the community for the opportunity to serve them during 2017. We've had a good year, and I anticipate a better one next year. So a Merry Christmas to everybody and a Happy Holidays to those who, however they wish to celebrate the season. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions for Mr. Patuchik on this report? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 2, the consent agenda. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the consent agenda consisting of Resolution 2017-095, the Fair Festival liquor license applications for Rona McMillan on behalf of Zarpara Vineyard to sell wine at the farmers market, approval of the City Council regular meeting minutes of November 9th, 2017, and City Council special meeting minutes of November 28th, 2017. Resolution 2017-096, reappointing Ariana Heinrich and Madison Monbleau to the Youth Commission. Resolution 2017-097, appointing Christina Reinhardt and Jody Gaston to the Arts and Humanities Commission. Resolution 2017-098, reappointing Alvin M. Slarv to the Library Advisory Commission. Resolution 2017-099, reappointing Brian Jones, Sandra Kenny, and Neil Gago to the Employee Benefit Trust. Resolution 2017-100, reappointing Chandra L. Saunders to the Commission on Cultural Diversity. Resolution 2017-101, reappointing Scott B. Weiss to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And Resolution 2017-102, acceptance of the Sewer Easement Arizona Kidney Disease and Hypertension Center be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and second, and thank you for doing that. I'll just mention that even though we just had a number of folks leave commissions and we appointed a whole slew of folks to commissions, we still have opportunities for people to serve. So if there's folks out there that are interested in serving on a city commission, you're highly encouraged to do so. And the city offices do have the number of slots open and available for your perusal based on your interest. Okay. Other further discussion on these items? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We next go to the public hearing. Item number 3, Ms. Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2017-103, Series 9 liquor license application for a person/location transfer limited liability company type of ownership for Jody L. Vumovas on behalf of Good to Go Stores, LLC at 2632 East Fry Boulevard, Sierra Vista, Arizona be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Adams, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, the application before you tonight is for a transfer person and location of a Series 9 liquor license, which is a store, a retail location for all spirituous liquor. Spiritual, yes, I'm sorry. The notice of the public hearing tonight was posted on the facility for the required time, and no comments have been received pro or con. The applicant has been background checked by the police department, and they have no objection to this moving forward. There is currently a Series 10 license in place at that store, which is beer and wine only. This adds the actual alcohol sales. If approved tonight, it will be forwarded back to the State Liquor Board for final action.
Well, thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions for Ms. Adams? Any further discussion? In that case, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move to item number 4, Mr. Mount.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2017-104, proposed city-initiated amendments to the Development Code and declaring a 30-day public comment period be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, may we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As you recall, Kimmy Development created a work program, 2017-2018 work program, which provided a summary of potential code amendments to extend from 2017-2018 fiscal years. The City Council was presented with this work program at the 5/23/17 council meeting, and it was also presented to the P&Z Commission on 6/26/17. Following that work session, staff did draft up some draft code language and went back at a work session for the P&Z on 9/19/17. Following at the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission on 10/17/17. And just to summarize, that the amendments will be improving efficiency, clarifying code requirements, and provide flexible development standards. So the first amendment I want to talk about are the amendments to the water adequacy section, and specifically clarifying some language. Subdivision regulations were amended in 2008, and they included the current water adequacy language. water adequacy is only applicable to those subdivisions meeting the county definition of subdivision, which is 6 or more lots, not to be confused with the city definition of subdivision, which is 4 or more lots. To clarify this, language is being proposed in which we're representing the ARS citation defining the county subdivision. In other words, we're stating that water adequacy is only applicable to county subdivisions, which are 6 or more lots. The next code amendments I want to talk about is the manufactured home RV development standards. Currently, the development code allows up to 20 spaces or up to 10% of overall spaces in manufactured home parks to be dedicated to RVs. The proposed language would allow up to 30% of spaces dedicated to RVs, and this would allow for development flexibility and is reflective of market trends. Also included would be a definition of manufactured home park and a simplification of development standards. Administrative modifications. The city currently has an administrative process in which a single-family residential property owner can ask for reduced setbacks for side and rear yard setbacks, and this only pertains to existing residences. So the amendment limits the side and rear yard building setbacks to 5 feet, unless they're adjacent to an alley or drainage way for existing single-family residences. A second amendment in this section applies specifically to single-family residences within infill and incentive district areas. In this particular case, one could request a administrative modification for both new and existing homes, and also request a modification to a front yard setback up to 15 feet. If it adjoins primary frontage, or up to 10 feet if it adjoins secondary frontage. Now, the caveat on this is that the reduction allowed, front yard reduction is only allowed for the portion of the front facade that does not contain an enclosed garage or carport. And the purpose for that is to ensure that there isn't any overhang from vehicles onto the sidewalks and other public right-of-way. Fences and wall height. The code currently allows wall heights up to 3 feet within the front property within the front yard areas of residential lots. The amendment would increase the maximum heights of walls up to 4 feet on properties less than 10,000 square feet, and a maximum height of 5 feet on properties larger than 10,000 square feet. An amendment would also allow requests to increase residential wall heights higher than 6 feet within side and rear yards to be processed through an administrative modification process. Administrative site plans. An amendment would be providing objective criteria for the administrative site plan process. Also, the second amendment in this section would rename the modification of setback to administrative site plan. Increased commercial heights. The First Amendment will be removing current language restricting the height of buildings. And the Second Amendment in this section would be increasing building heights in the general commercial zoning district. And I want to touch on a couple of things which I didn't refer to in the work session on Tuesday. Now, the First Amendment would refer to commercial buildings, and generally speaking, commercial buildings would go from 30 feet to 36 feet. Now, there's currently a requirement in the development code that states that any commercial building that's within 100 feet of a residential zoning district can only be 25 feet in height. Now, this will change with the proposed language to go from 25 feet to 30 feet. So it will not be 36 feet if it's adjacent, if it's within 100 feet from a residential zoning district. It would only be 30 feet. The other thing I wanted to point out also is that the maximum height for a residential home is 28 feet. So potentially there will only be a 2-foot differential between a commercial business and a residential home with this proposed amendment. Reduced building setbacks within infill incentive district. Currently, general commercial properties have a 40-foot front yard setback, or 40-foot and 20-foot for in a corner lot. What we're doing in this case is the amendment would reduce the front yard setbacks to 5 feet for standard lots. It would be 5 feet for primary frontage and 10 feet on secondary frontage for through lots, and on corner lots, it would also be 10 feet setback for secondary frontage and 20 feet for the primary, 5 feet for primary frontage, 10 feet for secondary frontage, excuse me. Low impact development. The First Amendment would require roof and fountain drains to discharge into landscape areas. Next, we would require directing rainwater toward depressed landscape areas. And finally, we would allow pervious and semi-pervious surfaces and non-required parking areas of commercial parking lots. This next amendment would be removing and relocating much of the text in Article 151.05 in the Development Code to either other sections of the code or in various sections of the city code. And finally, a couple of city code amendments here. The First Amendment would allow code enforcement officers to cite criminal misdemeanor violations. And secondly, the Second Amendment would provide a distinction between inspection processes for visible and non-visible violations. The Planning and Zoning Commission, as I stated earlier, did hear this at a public hearing on October 17th. The commission did approve the amendments, the 4-to-1 vote. There were 2 members from the public that spoke at the meeting. One had general questions about the amendments, and one member had requested that an additional amendment be considered, which would exempt native grasses from certain property maintenance overgrowth standards. And the member of the Planning and Zoning Commission that did vote against the amendments did bring up the issues regarding native grasses and voted against it for that reason. Public comments, we received actually I apologize, we received 6 public comments. I received one yesterday via email. 3 requested native grasses be exempt from overgrowth regulations. 1 letter opposed the water adequacy amendment. 1 supported the water harvesting amendments, and we received an email yesterday which a member from the public was opposed to the code enforcement officers citing for criminal misdemeanor. That does conclude staff's report. And I do want to say I apologize, you've not received the Exhibit A. It should be coming shortly, hopefully.
We got it, Jeff.
You got it? Oh, fantastic. Okay. So that includes staff's report. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Pregler? Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, the vote right now is just to send it back out to the public for 30 days of their comments, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And just so you know, the code amendments have been on the website for about 2 months already. They were on the website about a month before the P&Z public hearing.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Pregler? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 5. Mr. Pregler.
I need to.
Oh, excuse me. Let's have a motion first. That would help. Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2017-105, proposed city-initiated amendments to the city code sections and declaring a 30-day comment period be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Now, Mr. Pregler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This particular resolution pertains strictly to the city code amendments. The last resolution was for the development code amendments. The staff report is the same as the last item, so I have no other statements to make at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Pregler? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Again, another 30-day period. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 6. Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2017-106, city-initiated amendments to Title IX, General Regulations, City of Sierra Vista Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 92, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, as was just stated, this resolution provides for the establishment of a new chapter in the city code under Title IX General Regulations concerning wireless facilities in the public right-of-way. The Arizona legislature approved House Bill 2365, which was signed into law and became effective on August 9th of 2017. This bill allows wireless providers to install and operate small cells and related equipment in city, town, and county rights-of-way and public easements. Cities and towns are required to establish and make available rates, fees, and terms that are consistent with the new legislative requirements by February 9th of next year, or 3 months after receiving the first request by a wireless provider. Small wireless facilities are limited in size to 6 cubic feet for the antennas and 28 cubic feet for the wireless equipment that is required to send and receive radio signals to the site. They are typically co-located on existing utility poles. The law exempts from zoning review any new replacement or modified utility pole that does not exceed the greater of 40 feet or 10 feet above the tallest existing utility pole that is located within 500 feet of the proposed site, not to exceed 50 feet. Any new monopole, which is a wireless support structure that is not more than 40 inches in diameter at the site, at the ground level, and has all the wireless facilities mounted on or contained inside the pole, would be permitted through the city's normal development review process. The law allows local governments to develop reasonable, objective design standards for the small wireless site, but restricts cities from imposing separation standards from residential units or other small wireless sites. The proposed amendments contained in Resolution 2017-106 provide for the definition of terms, application and registration requirements, objective design and construction standards, required camouflaging of equipment to blend in with the surrounding environment, permit application right-of-way use fees by facility type, and standards of review and approval and processing timeframes for wireless facilities to be placed within the public right-of-way in accordance with the new law. The technical specifications and operational maintenance requirements were prepared by city engineering staff, who will be chiefly responsible for administering the provisions of the chapter to ensure the city's interests are protected. The requested action is to declare a 30-day record on the proposed amendments upon considering any public input that you receive through the hearing process. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Questions for Mr. McLaughlin? Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to repeat a question. Does the city have the right to refuse to allow a wireless, a request for this wireless setup to happen?
There are grounds for disapproval when an application is inconsistent with the requirements that are laid out in the ordinance.
But if they follow all the requirements in the ordinance?
Then we are obligated to approve
Obligated.
the application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Questions? With that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to new business. Item number 7, Mr. Blanchard.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance 2017-007, proposed 2017 local amendments to adopted building codes be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. May we have the staff report, please?
Maybe I'll give the general overview, and then Bruce could answer any technical questions on the substance of the amendments. You'll recall at your last meeting on November 9th, you approved this resolution, a resolution declaring a 30-day public record on the proposed local amendments to the adopted building codes. The amendments were developed by staff with input from the local contracting community, with the overarching goal of reducing obsolete or unnecessary code provisions consistent with the city's strategic plan. The ordinance would codify the proposed amendments and repeal all conflicting ordinances. And if you have any specific questions on the details of the amendments, Bruce will be glad to answer those for you.
Questions? You can get off easy tonight, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Seeing none, I'll call for the questions. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Good job, Bruce. We next move on to item number 8. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2017-107, amended final plan, Plaza de Colibri, lots 1 through 8, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, may we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Let's hope I have no more technical difficulties today, so hopefully everything will work well. The Plaza de Colibri subdivision is located on the west side of Highway 92, north of Bluebird Drive, and consists of approximately 11.27 acres. The plat was originally approved on December 31st, 2001. The applicant is requesting to amend the location of an access and relocation of a non-vehicular access easement to 50 feet south to reflect the location of a access road, which will connect Quail Run Drive and South Highway 92. And you can see from the aerial here the current location of the access in the plat and the proposed location of the access. Again, there's a 50-foot separation between the current plat and the proposed amendment on the plat. The access road will provide for access to 92 for the right-in, right-out traffic movements and a left-in and access into Plaza Colibri. There's also, ultimately, will be a traffic signal at this location when the east side development on Highway 82 is developed. So with that, this concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Brecker. That was much better. That last graphic was much better than what was presented the other day. Thank you.
I agree.
Questions?
Yeah, could you take your pen and, I don't know if it'll show up on that, what you have there, and just show where the road will go from where it says Quail Run Drive
Well, I have I think I
to where it actually connects, where it says proposed?
proposed. Okay, the access road will come in
Right here from Quail Run.
right here. So here's Quail Run Drive. It's going to come in right here
Okay.
and
I
right
was
over here.
confused with this right here. Okay, it'll curve.
This is the current road.
Okay.
It's going to have to curve up to the north. Any other?
I think I see it now. The mayor pointed it out, so thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pregler. We now move on to item number 9, Ms. Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2017-108, amended final plan, The Retreat, Phase 2, lots 128 to 141 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The Retreat Phase 2 was originally approved on December 13, 2013. Following approval, market conditions changed and home buyers are now seeking larger homes and lot sizes. As a result, Castle and Cook is requesting this replat, which consolidates existing platted lots on the south side of Rhapsody Drive, as you can see right here, and increases lot widths from approximately 50 feet to 70 feet, resulting in a net reduction of 6 lots overall in Phase 2. The total area to be replatted is 2.74 acres. The applicant has also submitted and updated the improvement security and subdividers agreement, which reflects the reduction for the required public improvements. And do have Rick Kaufman in the audience tonight from Castle and Cook that can answer any questions you may have.
Just have a quick question.
Questions for Mr. Pregler?
Just so I don't have to do the math in my head, what are the square footage of these lots going to be now?
About 8,000, approximately 8,000.
Approximately 7,500 to 8,000, now or in the future?
In the future.
Now there are a minimum of 5,500. It'll go to
We need,
closer to 8,000.
Mr. Kaufman, we need to get you on the tape.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gray. The existing lots are a minimum size of 5,500 square feet. They're 50 feet deep, 50 feet wide by 110 feet deep. The new lots will be 70 by 110, so 7,700, something like that. So we've had success in our estates subdivision, but we're beginning to run out of lots over there. So this is a way of having a few more of the larger lots.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Any other questions? Further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pregler. We now go on to item number 10, Mr. Mount.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2017-109, modification of sewer extension agreement number 188 with 25 Sierra Vista LLC for Charleston Crossings be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As was discussed Tuesday afternoon at the work session, In July of 2010, the City of Sierra Vista entered into a sewer extension agreement number 188 with an LLC called number 25 Sierra Vista LLC. The sewer extension agreement called for certain sewer improvements to be constructed with regard to the property, the Walmart property, Charleston Crossing. After the sewer extension agreement was implemented, after the improvements were constructed, the city took ownership and the right to maintain and control the sewer construction improvements. Subsequent to that, number 25 Sierra Vista LLC sold the property to Triple C Partners LP, and Triple C Partners LP is now in the process of selling the property to a new buyer, Shinstrom Brothers Redmond LLC. The title agency that is involved in the transaction views the ownership documentation that was attached to the original sewer extension agreement, identifying number 25 Sierra Vista LLC as a cloud on the title, and they would also like assurance that the sewer improvements have been constructed in accordance with the agreement that was executed back in July. This resolution would serve to modify the existing sewer extension agreement. It would leave the extension agreement in place, but it would now identify Triple C Partners as the current owners, and also an estoppel certificate would be issued by the city, just recognizing that the improvements envisioned by sewer extension agreement number 188 have been constructed to the city's satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Questions? Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move to item number 11. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance 2017-008, ordinance chapter 38, elections be approved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Ms. Adams, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, at your October 26th meeting, council approved and opened a 30-day public comment period on amendments to the election ordinance, the code that governs how the city does its candidate and question elections, actually. The amendments were to provide for circumstance where the city may defer the primary election to the general election depending on the number of qualified candidates that file for either council or the mayor's seat. As written, the ordinance, if in excess of 2 per seat of the regular election seats, so there normally is 3 council and then every 4 years 1 mayor. If more than 2 candidates per seat qualify to be on the primary ballot, as written, the primary would be held and direct election is still in place, which would mean that if any of the candidates receive 50% plus 1 of the vote, they would be elected through the primary. What has been provided, and the biggest change would be if the number of qualified candidates equal or less than 2 per seat, then all the candidates would proceed to the general and the city would not hold a primary election. And that's generally what the proposed amendments are. We did receive public comment in the comment period. The overwhelming unanimous thrust of that was that the direct election, the people who made the comments would prefer that the direct election and the primary option be deleted from the amendments.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. We have one member of the public that would like to address us this evening, Mr. Kiabu.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, can you switch this so I can put this up there?
There you go.
Thanks. So during the I have a sinus problem, so my voice might come and go. During the 30-day comment period, I talked to over 100 people about the current ordinance, the proposed ordinance, and something that I was asking for originally. And if they agreed with me, they put their name on this, which says that here it says, I would like the races for mayor and city council decided in the general election only. The information that I used when I gave this to them Gave him information on what current ordinance looks like, where 50% plus one of the vote in the primary can get a candidate elected in the primary. That means that they wouldn't have to go to the general. The proposed ordinance, and what I originally had asked for was that the candidates, the winners, be determined in the general election only. Now, when I spoke to each of you earlier this year, it was sometime before the budget meetings, what I originally asked for was we just have a general election and it be decided in a general election, no primary. And after speaking with the mayor, who convinced me that if we have 10 people running for council and 5 people running for mayor, we could end up with very few people within the city deciding who mayor and council members were. So I went back and changed it, and it looked more like this middle one here, but in either case, I had if we had a primary, that'd be used to reduce the candidates for council and for mayor to a smaller number, and then it'd go to the general, and the winners for those seats be decided in the general. And when I presented this to people, the form that I gave to Ms. Adams earlier this week, there was 104 people that I had spoke to that agreed with me and put their name on this. Of the 104 people, well, it was 104 plus. 3 people disagreed. One person just couldn't make up their mind. One person thought that having one election was just fine. She had some other things to say about candidates, but I'm not going to say that here. And there's another, the last person, a gentleman said he voted in every election, so he doesn't see why we need to do anything special. Everybody should vote in every election. While that might be true, that's not reality. So, of the 104, approximately 60% of the people that I got to agree and put their name on that list, this is going to be hard to see. This is a map of the city. I'm sorry. I don't have the skills of the city to... This is a Google map. Anyway, so this is south side of the city. This is north side of the city. These are the streets I walked on. I just went out and I picked one. I started out in my neighborhood, which is Canyon View Drive. I walked on Player Avenue, went over to Calle Albuquerque, which is behind the Windermere. Over here are those streets that have copper in their name, which is to the west of the mall. And then one day, actually, Councilman, when I was walking over in his neighborhood, Councilman Mount drove up in his driveway and I was talking to his neighbor. And then the last day I went over here by the St. Andrew's Catholic Church. And what I did is I knocked on every door that did not have no solicitors or no trespassing. I rang their doorbell. Then I talked to them about this and presented it the way I showed you here. And except for the 3 that disagreed, 104 agreed and they put their name on this petition. And there was one person, when I showed him this, he said, oh, I like the one in the center the best, which is the one that you're going to vote on tonight. Then I flipped this over and showed him the numbers of voters between the primary and the general last 2 elections. And when he saw this number from last year and this number from 2014, he said, okay, I see what you're doing. I agree with you, and he added his name to this list. So what I'm asking for is that you not vote for this proposed change and go back and change it so that the elections are decided in the general election only, or that the winners of the seats are decided in general election only. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Galbo. I think you made your point. All right, discussion.
So essentially, there will be, if necessary, if the numbers are right, a primary, no matter what number of votes everybody gets, just the lowest below 2 per seat will move forward? Is that?
No.
No.
Oh, Jill, would you explain it again?
So during the filing period in the spring, we have a month where people qualify to get on the primary ballot. The way it is written is if say, for example, this year when both the mayor and 3 council members are available for election, if either one of those races receives 2 per seat, 2 mayor, 6 council, or less, then both races will automatically go to the general. There will be no primary. If one race is 2 per seat and the other one gets more, they will still both go to the general. If both races have more than 2 per seat, then we will have a primary election, and those candidates receiving 50% plus 1 of the vote would be considered directly elected through the primary. If the mayor or any part of the council member seats don't reach that 50% plus 1, then 2 per seat go forward to the general for a runoff.
Okay. With what Mr. Kiabu is asking, what I don't understand is, okay, I understand what's in front of us to vote on. If we decide not to vote on that tonight, then the next question is, what alternative are we going towards? What Mr. Kiabu presented, or?
Well, what would have to happen, either if this was voted down, then we would basically start from scratch. But what needs to happen is if somebody wants to offer an amendment to change, they can certainly do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I will take you up on that offer.
Well, I'm not.
Okay, when you're ready.
I'm not offering. I'm explaining the procedures.
But I will be offering an amendment to the
Okay.
ordinance.
I'm ready.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to hear the amendment.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start by saying that I wholeheartedly agree with the intent of the ordinance, and I think that the current ordinance that we have is better than what the ordinance that's being proposed tonight is better than what we have currently. I think at least for me, is that there's a pretty obvious flaw to what is proposed, and that is that as a scenario, if we have 7 candidates running for council and 3 candidates running for mayor, they can still be elected in the primary, and that is contradictory of what we're voting on tonight. So I would like to make a motion to move all elections to the general.
Second.
And I'd like to clarify that by also adding that the way that this proposal is written, it's very, very rare that we would have a scenario where candidates would go to the primary. But in the case that that does happen, I want to make sure that that flaw is not in the ordinance.
Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Well, what does that do with the situation where there's 15 candidates for city council seats?
Top 3 or top 1 for the mayor, and top 3 would bear it out.
In the general.
What you're proposing is we don't do a primary, right?
That's correct, and I can.
So what we're talking about then is if there's no primary,
Right.
then everybody goes to the general. So we meet the first criteria, which is get as many people to polls as possible, which is what we want.
Right.
The challenge we have is because, and this, I know this is going to be a rare case,
Right.
that we have so many people that we have people get elected with less than a majority.
Right.
That's a potential.
Yeah, and I agree with the general flaw, which is almost to punish those who do want to participate with less voter turnout, and I use punish not to be belligerent, but to draw a contrast. The other thing that I was contemplating this is I was kind of reading this thing over, and although I don't think it would happen, there's a potential for it to happen, and it's something where because the way the current proposed change is written, it could take 2 strong candidates and get them into the general and let the best person win. That's true, but it could also set the scenario where somebody could maybe they had favoritism towards one, could run a third party that would then allow somebody to win in the primary with far less voter turnout. And essentially, it'd be a way to split the vote without taking true intent of what this is what we're trying to do, is get massive voter turnout. I think that's something there that we would, the only way to offset it is to either do a straight primary, down select everybody, then go to the general, or to bypass the primary and go straight to the general and save the costs on the elections, and then we just have maybe a higher population of candidates with less numbers, but at least we get more candidates voting. So I agree with Ms. Ashes if we want to offset that.
Public voting.
Correct, yeah.
If I could also add, I know we spoke during the work session about the potential of having the primary, but eliminating that direct election in the primary with the 50% plus one, and that didn't seem to get any traction among council members, and that is why I'm proposing just to eliminate the primary altogether and have all elections in the general.
Other discussion?
Just one other comment. We can do this, it seems to me, because it's a nonpartisan race. Is that correct?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, Councilmember Calhoun, yes, that is correct. Mr. Williams has done the research, and making this change is absolutely your purview.
Great.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? So just to make sure, we're talking about amending the proposal so that we only have a general.
Correct.
Regardless of how many people sign up for whatever office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions? Everybody's clear on what we're voting on?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? The amendment clears 5-2. And now we will go back to approve the motion as amended. Any other discussion on the motion as amended?
Okay. With the amendment.
That's with the amendment, so that means we go only to the general. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move to call to the public, and we have two members of the public that would like to address us this evening. We'll start with Ms. Calabresi.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and City Leadership. I have two things. At the end of the year, thank God 2017 is over and we are still open, Good Neighbor Alliance. But one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about is in 2018, we have our annual homeless census, or our homeless point-in-time count. So just to let you know, that will be happening again, and it's crucial that we do it, and we do it well, because I don't know if you remember what happens with that with the numbers. They go to Department of Housing. That includes unsheltered people and then people that are also in the shelter throughout the county, throughout the balance of state continuum. They go forward to Department of Housing. Department of Housing sends those numbers to HUD, and HUD compilates those numbers, and they bring them to Congress. So we have many people who are in permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, and other programs that if those numbers aren't up to par, then they run the risk of losing, we run the risk of losing much funding for our housing program. So it's that important. But secondly, I want to say thank you, because we are still open. Thank you to the city for all you've done for us and the partnership that we have, because I do have to tell you, at the state level, when I go to the continuum of care meetings, many people are envious of the relationship we have with City Council and the city employees and the police department. A lot of people at the balance of state, which is 13 other counties, can't say that. So I do give you a heartfelt thank you for that. And then the continuum of care is very special. It's needed. We have to do it. And we're going to miss Jennifer Thornton, but I do look forward to getting to meet the new person who's going to be designated to do that, because that's required for your CDBG funding, And it's, again, the PIC count goes under the continuum of care, so it's, again, it's that important. So just thank you. And if you haven't written your last-minute tax checks, Good Neighbor Alliance is one of those qualifying organizations, but there are many worthy qualifying agencies to accept those. And just so you know, December 17th or 2017, you can make the donations to 2018, April 15th, but we would really like them now. So just saying. So thank you very much for all of your support, and we're going to be open in 2018 again. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I want to thank you for all that you do for the community. You provided an excellent service. I'm glad you made the plug for the tax dollars, but I would also make the plug for volunteers. You always need extra sets of helping hands, and if folks are folks willing to help out, especially this time of year, I'm sure Kathy would be more than happy to get some assistance.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you.
We'll next move on to Mr. Newcomb.
Good evening. In 1979, I drove a taxi for a while in Phoenix. In the trunk of that thing was this great big box that they never ever told us what it was about. And I rather suspect it was to record every motion that the cab would do, so that they would know if anything happened to the cab, or if the cab happened to be in the area where something was happening. Well, I called that teaming to be free. There are a lot of people in this world who, they want to be free of worry, and they want to be free of responsibility, and they want to be free of everything, so they want money. As long as you got money, you don't have to worry about things. You're free, you know? So, in this last year, I think it was, we had a police officer, and you had a settlement with the person who got rammed in the back by a police officer who supposedly was drunk. Well, this person could easily have taken a bottle of liquor and rammed him and then drank the liquor. You know, because they're teaming to be free. There are a lot of people who do these kinds of things. The Queen's Jubilee, not too many years ago, when they went on the regatta on the Thames, you could see that Charles was staying in the lower part of the yacht. And when I watched that little bit, I could hear people yelling and stuff and taunting. And I would imagine that they like Elizabeth, but they are making some serious noise about Charles. You know, that he's not doing all that they do because they are such men and women, you know, and they are teaming to be free. You know, there are a lot of people that do this kind of stuff. I would think that device you have up there on the ceiling, and that device there, and that device there, and that device there, perhaps I don't know if they are there or not, but in your ambulances, it would be a good idea to have those inside there. Because a lot of medical costs are malpractice suits. And it would be a good idea for you people to protect yourselves against people teaming to be free. Blaming you for something, they may have the smarts to be able to blame it on you. You know, you need to have some of those in the ambulances. You also need it in there so that you can monitor the progress of your trainees and other employees in case they are making mistakes or if they are criminal themselves. I've through the years seen comedy routines where they talk about lawyers chasing the sirens. You know, in my life, I know that sometimes I say this and sometimes I'll say that, while I'm out on myself on the streets, and then a siren goes off. I don't know if there's some creepy group of people teeming to be free who have loudspeakers in their cars who can, do this siren at a time when I say something or in a time when I do something, or if there's lawyers actually chasing sirens to find out if there's actually something going on or if the police and the ambulances are going to a party. Sodom and Gomorrah, they're going to a party. You need, I don't know if you do, but I would recommend that you get some of these devices in your ambulances because positive role modeling would do a whole lot more good in this world than teaming to be free. Because teaming to be free creates conflict. There will be wars. If people are going to, have neighborhood wars and stuff and not be positive role models like Elizabeth, then Elizabeth will never know how much good she has done by creating that image of how it is to be a good person rather than the mobs of Americans who are always teeming to be free. I would hope that that's what you have inside your ambulances because it would sure protect the city of Sierra Vista.
Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. We'll next move on to comments and requests of council tonight. We'll start with Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment a big thank you to the Empty Bowls folks for all they've done over the last 10 years. And I especially think it's noteworthy that it didn't just put food into the local food banks, but also reached out regionally to other food banks. Also, I wish everyone happy holidays and safe holidays. And we'll see you back in January.
Thank you, Mrs. Calhoun. Mrs. Gray.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also just like to say thank you to the Empty Bowls Project and all the work that they've done throughout the years. And also happy retirement to Jennifer Thornton and a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope everyone has a blessed 2018.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Ms. Wolf.
I will echo Councilmember Gray and Councilmember Calhoun's statements. I would also like to thank all of our outgoing commissioners and all of the work that they have put into being a commissioner. I know it's not as easy and quick as it sometimes seems to be. Additionally, I would like to let people know that there are still empty positions on the commissions, and we do need your help. So please come forward if you would like to serve on a commission and let us know and fill out an application. Other than that, be safe, and we'll see you in January.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Mr. Blanchard.
I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mount.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd also like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Look forward to a good 2018 already. Also, there was a whole bunch of codes and a whole bunch of other things that were pushed back out to the public. So the public who's watching, get in there and take a look at those. Those things will affect you. We need your input so that we can go ahead and continue to represent the best way we can. And council, I will miss you on that first meeting that you guys have. Just know that I'll be enjoying the sunshine somewhere else.
You'll be watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll trust me, I won't be watching. I'll catch you up later.
Well, maybe not on vacation, but afterward, I'm sure you'll watch the tapes. Mayor Pro Tem Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo the comments of my colleagues. A special thank you to Jennifer for all your work and service with the city. In addition to what my colleagues have already stated, I would like to add that it's always great to see Kathy and Good Neighbor Alliance here in council chambers. And if you have not done the point in time count or gone out with the Good Neighbor Alliance staff to get a different tour of the city, I would highly encourage you to do that. And last but not least, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Festivus, and I'll see you in 2018.
Festivus.
Okay, and I guess I'll end with taking a minute to thank the staff for a good year's work. We've had a number of issues this year. We're going to have some challenges next year. It looks like the economy is doing a little better, and we all hope that that will continue, and that will allow us to do more for our citizens next year as well. But thank you and council for all your good work. I too want to wish everybody happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, prosperous New Year, and please, with all the travels to and fro over the holidays, please be safe, because we want you back, and we want to start the new year right by having a prosperous new year. Seeing nothing else before the council, meeting's adjourned.